Hey guys, it's Sal here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Engineer class from the Battlefield 4 beta. Now, this footage is literally the last clip I have from my experience with the Battlefield 4 beta, so I'm kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel as to clips that are any good. So I think it's decent, but just keep that in mind. Similar to the support video, I am at my wit's end here. I don't have a lot of clips left, and I am just 9 hours away currently from the launch of Battlefield 4, so I'm just trying to pass the time, so here we go. We're going to take a look at the Engineer class. So I will admit that the Engineer class is definitely the class that I had the least playtime with. I didn't really get into it a lot. I was mostly wanting to try out the other classes, as I did get a lot of playtime in as the Engineer in Battlefield 3. Now, the class itself remains mostly unchanged because in Battlefield 3 it was a pretty balanced class and it worked quite well. Now, one thing about this class that I noticed, or rather the gun with this class, the MX4, I was not a fan of this weapon. Unless the guy was like 2 feet in front of you, this weapon just rips. But if he's any distance from you, it's pretty hard to hit him because it has a lot of recoil and a large spread, and it is pretty difficult to control. Now, I didn't actually get to the, I don't even know what it's called, but the second weapon that you unlock is the Engineer. I never got there, but for my experience that I had with the MX4 and just the PDW in general, I feel like a carbine would be generally more suited to the Engineer class, just because a PDW, they're designed for up close, and an Engineer is not necessarily up close. They're out in the open, they're taking down vehicles and such, so I think like the ACWR would be a much better choice for the Engineer class, just simply because the PDW is just not really that great at anything other than very close quarters. Now, as far as the gadgets go for the Engineer class in the Battlefield 4 beta, they remain fairly unchanged from that of Battlefield 3. We still have, of course, our trusty repair tool and the rocket launcher of choice, be that the RPG, the SMAW, the Javelin, or what have you. Now, one thing that is going to change from the Battlefield 4 beta to the official launch of the game are the lock-on mechanics for the RPG and the SMAW. Now, the RPG and the SMAW just shoot in a straight line, no guidance whatsoever. They just go where they are pointed. Unless a recon player lasers a target, they could actually lock on and become laser designated, guided, whatever. Anyways, they could just go straight to that target. You didn't even need to be able to see it, which is kind of weird because those weapons just shoot in a straight line, then all of a sudden they're laser guided. No, that doesn't really make sense. So DICE has removed that mechanic, as it basically made vehicles kind of not useless, but they were very susceptible to being taken out by infantry, just because basically every recon player in the game would just laze it, and then any engineer, no matter what secondary they had, they could just lock on and take out that vehicle, which was a little inauthentic, and it was a little overpowered. So I'm glad that they are implementing that change. So other than the change of making the primary weapon for the Engineer class the PDW, the Engineer class hasn't undergone very many changes. Now, with the PDW as the primary weapon, it does make the Engineer class a little less useful in larger maps, because that is generally where people play Engineer and they want to give people a reason to try out other classes. But essentially this doesn't really make sense. My reasoning is kind of flawed because the carbine weapon class is for all kits, so essentially you can still use the carbines just like you did in Battlefield 3. So for the most part, the Engineer class hasn't really gone through many changes because, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So guys, that just about wraps up today's video on the overview of the Engineer class of the Battlefield 4 beta. I know this video is a little late as the launch of Battlefield 4 is just around the corner, but I really wanted to get this out because I knew I had that one last clip that I really wanted to use. So guys, I do thank you for stopping by and watching. So if you have enjoyed this video, you can leave a like, and of course, if you want to see more, you can always subscribe. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.